Okay, first things first, gun control. Now, I debate a lot on Twitter, and it's mostly silly stuff, but whenever the topic of gun control comes up, we almost inevitably start talking about statistics. And the lack thereof in the US, cough cough. However, I'm British, and we do our damned bookkeeping. And philosophy is a diverse enough topic to encompass that. So I thought I'd do a video on it. Now, there is still the vestiges of a gun debate in the UK. I am sometimes shown this chart and told, as you can see, homicides went up and that's why gun control doesn't work. So for the first part of this video, I will be debunking this graph. Now, you can easily look up this graph and everything I say. We have Google. But since I know all of you are lazy, I will be sourcing everything I refer to in this video. And whenever you see a number pop up in the video, I am referring to that source in the description. UK gun control. If you rewind the clock to pre-96 Britain, something terrible keeps happening. Mass shootings. A lot like the US now, the UK used to have a huge problem with mass killings where the weapon used was a gun. On March 13th, 1996, a man walked into a primary school with his legally owned handguns and killed 16 5 to 6-year-olds and one teacher. After that, the government added handguns to the already existing restrictions on firearms in the UK and implemented gun amnesty, a public buyback. Since those laws were passed, since that program was passed, in 22 years, there's been one mass shooting. In the 10 years just before Dunblane, you could name many more. You had the Castle Rock killings, the Hungerford massacre, the Sean Graham bookmakers shooting, the Grey Steel massacre, and the Lochin Island massacre. And that's not even counting incidents with less than 4 victims, incidents like the Milltown massacre. But that's where this chart comes in. You see, as the chart shows, in the mid-2000s, homicides apparently went up. And that means that regardless of the weapon used, gun control didn't work. Especially since, by the year 2000, the UK government had all but done collecting close to 200,000 private firearms from the citizens. So, gun control meant more murders. Well, actually, no. Not even a little bit. That is not how this data is supposed to be used, or what it implies. The biggest flaw with using the data this way is that these aren't homicides after 96. These are homicide rulings after 96. Big difference. In this chart, there are many statistics where the homicide took place before 96, but was only ruled a homicide after 96. Now, you can keep looking up statistics and you'll find this newer page from 2017. And you'll find this graph reproduced pretty much point for point. But you'll see this curious yellow dot. That yellow dot is what the statistics would have been if you excluded the rulings of the Hillsborough disaster, an event that happened in the late 80s. And it's an event with enough lives tied to it that it skews the trend of the entire chart. This fact alone makes this argument using this evidence complete bollocks. Oh, what's this? Harold Shipman? The country's most prolific serial killer who committed most of his crimes before 96? Well, I'll be blown, because that might skew the statistics a tad. You know, he was only one of the UK's most prolific killers. Also, homicides aren't just premeditating murder, where this gun control debate is valid. Homicide in the UK is a crime category which includes things like corporate malfeasance, things like toys with arsenic in them, and unsafe buildings can count as homicide deaths. The UK homicide statistic also includes infanticide, which is the quite depressing statistic where a parent, usually impaired by something like depression, takes the life of their infant child within the first year of its life. The most vulnerable demographic in the UK of homicide are infants, and the NHS has tried to put together programs to tackle that, but this is the real cost of things like austerity Britain. Now that we've delved into the depressing, I hope that we appreciate that homicide in the UK is more than just the crimes that gun control is associated with. And perhaps displacing this chart to that arena of discussion is ridiculously reductive. You can also look into gun crime specifically in the UK. There's an ONS page dedicated to that. But again, they give you your caveats. Mainly that the way that the UK gathers this data and classifies it changed from ICD-9 to ICD-10, which makes datas before and after 2000-2001 incomparable directly. That's actually written directly on the ONS page, like first few paragraphs. Also, there's a lot of spreadsheets. I don't know what any of this means. After all of this, I was really left with one question. What exactly is the point of these statistics?